All right. This afternoon, just want to do a quick midsummer update. We've got Calbert Cheaney, Kenny Johnson, Tim Buckley, and Steve McClain, and joining us for the first time, David Woods from the Indy Stars here. And we've got Pete, Ken Bykoff, Dustin, and Zach. Scott Swegan is our student, and I don't have your name, so if you could introduce yourself real quick.
Amanda Benson.
Okay. So I guess I'll just open it up. Each one of you just make a comment about the summer. We'll start with Calbert, and then we'll open it up for questions.
I think it's been an amazing summer. Got all 6 of our freshmen in, and also we have Evan Gordon in, so workouts are going great. Kids are doing very well. They've adjusted to the educational part of it, going to class and managing their time, so it's been very, very good so far.
Yeah, just following the same lines. I mean, the culture of the program has been firmly established. I think that's the question you have when you lose 4 guys. You know, he scored over 1,000 points in the program, as well as the leadership of Derek Elston and things he's been able to accomplish. You want to kind of identify how quickly the guys are going to transition in and understand how hard, you know, we work in the program and what the culture of work is like in the program. And they've come in and been very competitive, extremely competitive. And, you know, with guys stepping up into new leadership roles, you know, then with Yogi and Will going off to compete with the world team, guys who were stepping into leadership roles even had to have an elevated level of leadership, and I think everyone's taken to it. The communication's at a high level. You know, guys are going at it.
Coming off an outright conference championship for the first time in 20 years, in arguably the best league in the country this year. Sometimes you have guys that may feel entitled, and that just is going to happen for you just by coming to Indiana, and that hasn't been the way the new guys who've come in here have been at all. It's a very vocal group. It's a high energy group. It's a group that really wants to get better, and I think some of the guys who are highly credentialed sometimes are acting like walk-ons that just want to learn, and they're trying to make the team, and they've got that great energy and spirit about them, and I think that's the great legacy, aside from the other things that that group accomplished that's now leaving, but that's their legacy that they're leaving behind too, is that culture and that work ethic.
Well, and what I'd add to what all three have talked about, and you know, you see those pictures sitting there of Cody and Vic, and I think even in Tim's been here the longest, but even what I've seen change in the 3 years heading into my 4th year is you have some young guys in this program, and even, you know, our oldest guy being Will, but the work ethic, the things that made Victor Oladipo walk on that stage and be the number 2 pick. These young guys all saw it. The returning guys saw it. The guys coming in saw it. And they see Vic up there. They see Cody up there. And the challenge of getting guys to come to the gym isn't a challenge. That's the expectation. And that's where this group has, you know, you just throw everything they've talked about, from communication to work ethic to being in the gym extra. They've seen it work. They've seen that that's the success of a team. And, you know, that's what this group is right now. They're trying to become a team, and that's what we do in recruiting. We're building teams. Individuals got to get better every day, but we're building teams, and this group's off to a great summer of building a team.
Tim, you've seen 3 of these big classes, 4 or 5 guys, whether it be the Halls, the Watford class, or last year or this year. How do the different groups how does this year's group compare to the others as they came in, and how do you see them kind of contrasting to them? Is there a difference, I guess?
I mean, I would say from a media perspective, this group is probably more highly credentialed than any of the other groups. And that's why it's very important that this group continues to keep that edge that it has to be great, because that's what the other groups had. They had that edge. they had a little bit of notoriety, but guys like Jordan Hulls, it's not like he was the #1 or top 10 point guard in the country coming in, but I thought we did a really good job of projecting. And I know I received several phone calls when we signed Victor Oladipo and Will Sheehy because of their low ranking. And what we kept trying to tell people was, we don't have anybody that looks like those two guys. And you're going to see that they're Big Ten level players, Big Ten level athletes, and we felt like we do a pretty good job of developing them with the hours that we get, which are 20 a week during the season and 2 now in the summertime. But we also knew that those guys would get in there on their own, and that's the only way to get better, is when you do more than what's required.
Tim,
What, I get,
go ahead.
okay, just especially Tim and Steve, sort of, what has the difference been this summer? Because there have been, not everybody's been here. There have been guys at Team USA. I know some of the younger guys have been kind of going to different skills camps and things. I mean, how different has that made this summer, just in terms of when you do get to work with the guys, or even just sort of observing them from afar, sort of this team kind of building, I guess, a dynamic of its own?
Well, I think in some ways it's been really good, because you don't have Will and Yogi out there as much right now. So it's allowed some young players to go ahead and be vocal, to go ahead and know that's the expectation. And it's also allowed Jeremy, Hunter, who probably would take a little backseat to Yogi and Will right now, to go ahead and have to step up and be that returning veteran. Even though they're only sophomores, they've had to step up and do that. So I think it's been a good mix to actually have those guys be away a little bit, because they're off doing something really well. And so, I would say it's been in some ways a positive for our team.
Helps define different roles. It doesn't allow them to just lean on those two guys, Will and Yogi, and they've got to step outside of themselves a little bit. And I think that's a great advantage as you go on down the road. And right now, nothing's at stake as far as winning and losing, and so it gives them a chance to maybe be in different settings where they can find out exactly who they are or who they could become.
Tim, I guess if you can talk a little bit, maybe each of the newcomers, just your impressions of them, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, how do you assess them? Yeah, so I'm sorry. Yeah.
I would say starting with Noah, obviously physically, he's college ready. He's very strong, very powerful. He's very polished around the basket and explosive. He's going to continue to develop his perimeter game, which I think, at least in my humble opinion, was a great decision on his part to come to school here, because that's what we've been able to do. That's where Cody's going to excel in the NBA, is because he was put out on the perimeter at times to drive the ball and shoot the ball. And those are areas where he's going to continue to develop and grow. And his attitude is as good as anyone's attitude that I've ever seen, especially for someone as highly credentialed as him, who wants to learn, wants to get better. What more can I do? I think Stan Robinson fits the motor part, where he's going to come in here and he's going to give you everything that he has on a consistent basis. Sometimes he'll go too fast, but it's a lot easier to try to slow guys down than it is to try to hurry them up. And his skill level is going to continue to get better. Right now he's pretty left-hand dominant, but we're going to keep chipping away and working on that right hand. I think he's going to be a very good shooter once the repetition of his shooting exceeds the pressure of the game and the pressure of the practices, that type of thing. He'll be a quality defender once he learns the schemes and the things that we're trying to do. Troy Williams, spectacular athlete, but as good a passer as he probably is an athlete. And it's really neat to watch when he's playing in 3-on-3 situations or 4-on-4 situations where he finds the open man and he kind of sees things maybe a play ahead. Once he gets his rhythm down with his shooting and that's going to continue to improve. And when he gets to a point where people don't know whether to close out on him hard or to back off of him, that's when he's really going to have the defense at his mercy. All those guys that I've just mentioned, along with the other freshmen, they love confrontation at the rim. You know, they're all willing to compete and go after it, try to block shots or take charges. It's a very competitive group that way. Devin Davis is a better basketball player than probably most people think. I think he's kind of a hybrid a mismatch type guy, more athletic than he looks. He'll just go up and dunk it and kind of surprise you with that at times. But he's also pretty good at putting it on the floor. Does a great job of reading the defense for a freshman. Like, he knows where you're playing him and how you're playing him to spin or to counter or to make another move. Colin Hartman is a knockdown shooter, and he's going to continue to expand his game a little bit. But the one thing he can't get away from is making those shots when he's open and when he's available to take those. Who am I missing? Luke Fisher has gotten bigger and stronger already. I think he's already put on 7 or 8 pounds since he's been here. He's a winner, having gone undefeated the past 2 seasons before he came here. I think he's going to stretch and grow. He's probably more likely of any of the big guys that we've had recently that'll step out and he'll shoot the basketball right now. Now, he's got to continue to improve and get better at it, but he seems more comfortable at this stage of his development than maybe some of the other big guys that we've had at this point in time.
Calbert, what do you hope that Will and Yogi get out of the international competition that they're going to that they could bring back here?
Experience, the fact that they're able to play with other players from around the country, I think that would really help them. And I think it would help define their role as leaders a little bit more. But like I said, more so the experience than anything. Having an opportunity to play with that USA on your chest, to represent your country, and go out there and try and win a gold medal for the country that you play for. And that's what it's all about. But like I said, without a doubt, I think probably more importantly, the leadership aspect will probably, and the experience will probably be in the forefront here once they get back.
Making a team like that, how can that raise their confidence level as well?
Tremendously. I mean, obviously they get to play. Obviously, you're playing against players from around the country who are probably one of the top players actually one of the top players on their team. So you're playing against great competition every day, and you get to see where you're at as a player at this particular point in time during the summer, going on into the fall when we start the season. So I think it's great for both of them.
I think I'd add on to that because I got the opportunity to go out and I saw 3 of the 4 practices before the cuts were made, and to watch our 2 guys out there with some high level guys, and as a coach you're sitting there and you have no say in who's going to make that team, and you could sit there and watch the things we do in this program to develop kids and see the difference, but more than anything, see 2 guys that had played on a team, that had played with other good players, and so they didn't have to dominate the basketball. They didn't have to score to help show what they could do, and it was fun, and you saw them really take the challenge. I saw guys there, and I'm not going to name names, that acted like they were too good to play hard, too good to dive on a ball. I saw our guys taking charges. I saw our guys doing little things that help you win. And one thing that I know got discussed was Will being the 6th man of the year in this league. And could he go on a very good team and be a good teammate? And that played into it. And that's a positive thing. And so I think that was the neat thing that falls into what Calbert's talking about. There was nothing given. And I think that goes back to what Tim said about this program. There's nothing given in this program. So those guys went in there with the idea, nobody's going to give me this. I'm going to have to earn it. And they really made our program proud by how they acted, how they presented themselves in that environment.
For, I guess, anybody, just kind of what has Evan's role been this summer, sort of how has he adapted, particularly when you talk about not having Yogi and Will here, maybe him being one of the more experienced guys on the floor, even for a new guy?
Evan's been through it. I mean, he's a veteran of college basketball. I think the number one thing that people may not know about Evan that he's bringing to the table is his competitive nature. He's a physical guard. He's someone who's very prideful. He comes from a family that works. So he's used to putting in the extra work that we all talk about, outside of our required hours. And that's what he's done. I mean, he's blended in seamlessly. He obviously has a little bit more of an understanding of the tradition of the program, coming in than maybe someone else from a different background. but he's able to explain to the freshmen what we do. He's able to take the sophomores and teach them how to compete. And that's been his biggest thing that he's done for us since he's been here is he's the perfect veteran leader that you would expect from a senior guard stepping into this program. And he's doing it in a way that he understands, nothing is given to him either. It's an open book, it's competition. And he's coming in and he's jumping to that competitive, character of this program, and he's leading these guys.
When guys in the program see the hard work pay off for Cody and Victor, and I guess Calbert, have you seen an impact or a little boost for this for the players that are here after the draft, just in terms of them working harder because they see where they could go if they continue to work as hard as they can?
Oh, without question. Victor and Cody have the exact blueprint of how to make yourself better as a player. Obviously, Coach has done, and these wonderful coaches up here have done a wonderful job of the development aspect of the players. And to take it a step further, obviously, Coach Buckley talked about that we only get 2 hours in the summer, we get 20 hours during the season. So it's what you do off the floor that matters. And a guy like Victor Oladipo, who's pretty much forged himself as a player skill-wise. He already had the athleticism, but he forged himself to continue to get that skill, continue to help with that skill, continue to ascend at the skill level department. And once he did that, like I said, he was off to the races to be the number 2 pick in the draft. Purely from the standpoint of how he worked at it to get to that point. I think a lot of these players and a lot of these guys out here are freshmen and see it, and I think they want to be in that position as well.
Kenny, have you seen anybody who's approaching Victor's work ethic over this summer that can pick up the mantle and continue with it?
Well, a big part of everyone who joined the program obviously came for a visit. And when they're here, they not only have an opportunity to see what the guys are doing, on their visits, and they have the conversations with these guys. You take individuals like Stan Robinson as an example, who obviously knew Victor from the Washington, D.C. area. I don't know if it's called taking the mantle, but it's kind of like having a cheat sheet. If you're in conversations with Victor and he's wondering, and he's probably asked every single coach up here, and he asked Seth Cooper, who does a lot of the individual work with them outside of what we do required. He would ask them, well, what did Victor do? Well, how many reps did Victor do? Well, how many times a day did he come in? So it's like they're trying to follow that blueprint that's been set forth with not only Victor, but Will, with Jordan, with guys like that. And I know one individual, from day one, Noah's been here on campus. I truly believe if he could move a cot into the building right next door, he probably would. In all seriousness, he's an individual who's dead set on turning himself into the player that he believes he can be and maximizing his potential. But every guy is different, but every guy has their own individual way about going about getting better, and they all bought into the culture. But
To add to what Kenny's saying too, though, I think what you have to realize is Victor didn't come in here every day saying, if I do this, I'll be an NBA player. He came into it because he had a passion to get better. And because he went through the process, it guaranteed certain results for him. I think it's the same thing with someone like Noah. Noah's not coming in here to get to the NBA. Noah's coming in here to get better as a player. And if he continues to do that, then he's going to have those opportunities. You look at a guy like Jordan Hulls, who gave us just about everything he could give in his outside time as well. And if he hadn't come to Indiana and played basketball, he probably wouldn't be getting married. I know that. So that benefited him too. I think he's a role model out there for a few guys. But are you willing to sacrifice and give everything you have and maybe not have it work out the way you thought it was going to? And for someone like Jordan, he's going to take a different path, and it may work out for him, but he knows that he couldn't have done anything else. Christian's going through that right now. Hopefully it works out for him, and if it doesn't, is he willing to sacrifice and maybe take a different path to see if it will? And I think when you have that mindset as opposed to, if I do this, I'll go to the NBA, I think it works better for you because passion fuels you greater than some artificial goal.
you guys obviously talked a lot about the culture that's been passed on now, obviously makes this easier, but still, how much of it just sort of changes in gears this summer, this year, from dealing with a bunch of guys like, you know, Victor and Jordan that have been through it, that, you know, by this time in their career, by last summer, you know, they've gone through all the basics. I mean, you're still kind of on some level starting over with these guys, teaching them new things. Is how much of just a change of gears that as coaches to, you know, just have a bunch of guys that haven't been in the positions that last year's team had?
Well, I think it's fun. It's exciting. You know, I think, again, you listen to everybody talking about the new kids and Will and Yogi and Jeremy and Hunter and you know, Austin's getting back healthy and he's back on the court. It's good to have him back on the court, and he's still limited in some things, but he's getting closer every day. So it's exciting because, again, you can't, you talk about the culture because the culture is what the program's about. That's how it was when Coach was at Marquette, and that culture was established and has continued to stay there. Now it's here. And so you have to talk about the culture, but yeah, there's no question. Now it's a new group of faces, and it's exciting. You know, you get to go out and reteach and teach again. But I think that's where you come back to, though. I wouldn't say the workouts are any different today than they were a year ago at this time. You know, because again, it's about building a team, and the things Janae does in the weight room to the things we do on the court. You know, the faces change, but it's about, you know, coaching to the best players and bringing everybody to that level. And so I think it's fun for all of us. You get back out there and know it's just another challenge ahead of us.
From the beginning, for a couple, 3 years, we were very coach-driven. We are no longer coach-driven. We're a player-driven program. And we're allowed to teach and supplement and encourage and be critical because we've got a different kind of culture right now that started by being coach-driven, but you can truly be great when you become player-driven.
Does this, obviously, the recruiting cycle kicks in starting tomorrow. From what happened in the NBA draft, does that change anything, and this is for anybody, in terms of recruiting, whether, and I know you've already been national, but whether you can be more national now, just the name recognition was already high, is it even higher? Well, what Cody and Victor were able to accomplish in the NBA draft, what does that do recruiting-wise for you guys? What impact does it have?
Did it start
Well, and I'll start on it, and everybody will have something about it, but it kind of even goes to draft night. And you know, Coach was here. Victor and Cody, everybody pretty knew what, you know, and he was on the phone with teams with them right up till about 7:30. But then it turned to Jordy and Christian, and where were teams looking at them? And I can tell you with Christian Watford, it went till all the way till 3 o'clock in the morning of what was going to finally happen. And you know, okay, he's now going to be with the Pacers, and then he's going to be with the Mavericks. And so, you know, there's no question. You know, you put that up there, that's a great thing. But there was also the work to be done for those other guys. And, you know, the profile, again, and maybe I keep saying this was about a team. And there's no question those two get a lot of attention, but there was as much work being done that day for Christian and Jordy, and we're still working for, you know, Derek. Derek's getting healthy, and he wants to go do something. So I think, you know, from a recruiting point of view, that's what I hope people and young kids and families look at is it's great for these two. There's no question. But the success of those other guys, and kind of like Coach Buckley said, Jordan's going to take another path. Christian's going to take another path. The great thing is walking out here with their degrees, they've got a lot of paths they can take in life. And it's all going to be a pretty positive path.
We're pretty clear about the type of player that we look to bring into this program. And I think nationally it's pretty well understood, you know, what our core values are as a program. And that doesn't change. What it does, you know, with the exposure these guys have gotten, it maybe brings a little more attention to it. But what we're searching for, what we're looking for, even in this recruiting period, we have a great understanding of what we're looking for. And if anything, maybe it puts more emphasis on why you really come to school, for your education, for your player development, for a family and an environment that's going to sustain you not for the next 4 years of your life, but the next 40 years. So it gives us an opportunity to maybe answer more questions than it would be us out presenting, the facts. People now have an understanding of what Indiana is based on, and that wasn't going to change regardless. Because it's not always going to be a quote unquote highly credentialed player that we're seeking. We're seeking the best people that fit into what we're trying to get accomplished here. And so does their success give us probably a few more options out there for people that we may not have reached out to? Potentially, but that's not what's driving us. What we're doing in recruiting is we're plugging away at it in the same way that we normally would.
Steve, you mentioned earlier about Austin and saying that he's getting better, but he's still a little bit limited. How close is he to full go, and how has he developed even during the rehab process?
Well, when you see him, he's gotten bigger, he's gotten stronger, and like all our guys do. But he's ahead, and again, that's his drive. That's the job Tim Garl and Janae do in the weight room, and Coach Buckley said it earlier. You'd rather have guys you got to pull back than guys you got to push, and we're having to pull him back. And so, he's coming along great, and he's getting closer to where he'll be able to have contact, and then from there it'll be let's go. But he's worked hard at it, and he's got himself, he's got his body in great shape. Now it's just when does he get it finally just full go, with contact? Because he's going full go without contact, and now it's just that next step, which is coming pretty soon.
What are you guys seeing from Hunter, and what are you seeing from Jeremy right now?
Vast improvement. From the time the season was over to now, they've improved tremendously as far as the development part of it. Hunter shooting the ball extremely well right now, gotten better at that. Jeremy, but mainly both of those guys are all around skills is improving every day, and what the coach is talking about, that's an exciting part of seeing these kids grow. What type of level can they sustain, or can they achieve from here on out? And that's what it's all about. And those two are doing a wonderful job so far.
How much of, I was just going to sort of follow up on that. I mean, how much of that is maybe just sort of, I guess, the natural course of development, and how much of that maybe is sparked by what you talked about, just in terms of those guys maybe stepping into larger roles as leaders, as people sort of maybe leading practice as players? I mean, is it a little bit of both, kind of?
I think anyone's better doing something once they've already been through it. How would you feel if you were Hunter and you had to walk in there every day and you had to go against Cody Zeller? Would that really boost your confidence on a daily basis? Probably not, but he kept fighting and he kept working and he kept getting through it. And now what you see is a guy that's much more confident because he had that experience, and he's pushing the guys that might be close to the time they got to make when they run the line or whatever the drill might be. Then you look at somebody like Jeremy Hollowell, and I think as much as anyone on our roster, he's a guy that you can look at and say his game can really expand. He can post, he can drive it, he can play in the pick and roll, he can shoot the three. He's got the mid-level game. He's just got to refine all those things and get better. But because of the experiences that he had a year ago and the guys that he had to go against on a daily basis in practice, you see that confidence level. And the one thing about confidence, I don't think you can give it to anybody, and I don't think you can take it from them, but a lot of it has to do with how they feel about themselves. And I think Austin's another guy in that regard. If Austin Etherington will come in here with a confident mindset every day, he's a guy that can help our basketball team win.
Calbert, you don't have to go guy by guy, but with the newcomers that are coming in, do they remind you of any former Indiana players or guys that have come through the program before?
Well, I try not to. I'm not a person to try to compare, but at the same time, I think our freshmen right now, probably in terms of like athleticism and length and what they bring to the table in that regard, I think it's one of the best that I've seen over the years. Dating back to when our group, when I came here, I think we were considered the #1 in age, but I think this group is probably better than that group that we had. It's hard pressed to say that, you know, talent-wise, they might be one of the best recruiting classes to ever come through here. But at the same time, it's just talent. Now it's about what they can do for themselves and what we can do for them in terms of developing that talent.
Kenny, you talked about just what you guys are looking for in the evaluation period, I guess. I know you can't talk specifically about guys, but, you know, what are you guys looking for in terms of positions, in terms of numbers? I mean, what are you guys sort of trying to get out of this class, and how important is this upcoming evaluation period?
It's definitely an important period for us. I mean, it truly is an evaluation period for us, where we're able to get out and take a look. And I think one of the things that you know, in knowing coach and working with the coaching staff is that we're always open. Honestly, it is truly about identifying the best players as they fit into our program, because we recruit versatile players. I think that's been a strength of the program. I think that bears out when you watch us play, the versatility of the players that we have on the court. So, you know, we never have to go into it saying, hey, you know what, we really need a point guard, you know, we really need a 2 guard, really need a small forward, because we recruit versatile players. I think that as anyone in the country is probably going to tell you, I mean, everyone, if a very highly skilled, you know, big man is out there somewhere who fits into our culture, sure, we'll be interested. If you take a look at where if you view what we've lost in the last 2 years, I think that kind of gives you an idea of what we may be looking to replace. But, you know, it all starts with who's going to mesh and who's going to be willing to fit into that character and culture that we have in the program, and then be willing to learn and be competitive, because that's what we have. That's what we've had in the past, and we have this year coming in, and that's what we're looking for, people that are willing to learn and be versatile and mesh with the group that we already have.
I got time for one more question for these guys again.
We've asked about Austin earlier. How is Peter's progression? Are you guys, is he back on the floor yet? Where does he stand, basically?
Yeah, I mean, and we're still being cautious with him, because summertime, it's way better to be cautious than go overboard. And so, yeah, he's getting back on the court and doing a lot more things. So, you know, I think Coach was actually tweeting about him the other day that he's coming along, and you want it for him. He's a great kid. He's a great teammate, and nobody wants it more than those other guys that are with him. Connor, Jeremy, you know, those guys want him to do well. So, but he's progressing.
JD, I'd like to just kind of say one thing in regard to something that's been written recently in regard to this basketball team underachieving. And the reason I'd like to, because number one, I know myself and the group that sits here and the players and Coach Crean, we're a very prideful group. And I'm going to speak to it because I was in Coach Crean's living room at 10 a.m. on April 1st, 2008. And I was there when we faxed the letter of agreement at 4:26 p.m. And we came down to Indiana, and every day we found something new and different that was going to be a great challenge. And I was here when we brought 320 unofficial visits here that first year. And we continued to build, and we had former players here like Calbert Cheaney, and you can go down the line, who were supportive, and the fans who were here, and they came to the games. And when we brought Cody Zeller in for a visit and we weren't playing well or we weren't winning, and we could point to those fans and say, look, they're here now, just think what they're going to be like when we get really good. And they helped us do that, and we went through 3 tough years, and then we won 27 games, and then we went to the Sweet 16, and then we were ranked #1 longer than anyone else in the country. And then we went through the best Big Ten season, and I don't know how long as far as competition is concerned, on a night-in, night-out basis. And we were on that bench, and we watched that ball roll off that rim at Michigan, and we clinched the outright title for 20 years. And then we had 2 guys drafted in the top 4, which I believe is the best in the history of the program, someone point out to me what was underachieved from April 1st, 2008 until we went through draft night. And I'm going to speak to that because I know what everybody up here put into it. I know what everybody's family put into it. I know what every one of the players and their families put into it. And I'm talking about our extended families too, and the extended support staff and the former players and that. We're pretty proud of this group. And we're disappointed as much as anybody else was with not going further in the NCAA tournament. Our 5th place team in the Big Ten played for the national championship. That's how good this league was. And for us to do it night in and night out, I don't think we ever lost 2 games in a row. We had a resilient bunch. I'm really proud of what we've done, and I think everybody who's associated with Hoosier Nation should be really proud of what we did.